Let's fucking go! This is an exciting video. Doing something I've never done before here. For the very first time, I'm continuing a series that I said I would continue. Let's get into it, baby! We got the June Shine today. Wouldn't normally go for the canned cocktail, but it was what was available to me in the studio, so... What's up, everybody? This is Brian, aka Digit, and welcome to what is now officially a series where I review Monstercat's back catalog one numbered compilation at a time on a quest to find out what holds up and what's kind of cringe. So, if you don't know, Monstercat is a pretty popular EDM record label whose early releases in the first half of the 2010s really shaped my musical taste as a teenager, but it's been years since I've listened to any of it, and now I want to see if I can look past the nostalgia and find out if there's anything here that I'd actually feel comfortable recommending to someone today. This time, we're looking at the very first album they ever put out, 01, launch week. I'm gonna be real with you, I do not have high hopes for this one, because this is 01, and even when I did 07, some of the productions on that one were sounding pretty dated. When you go back this far, it becomes really apparent that this label was started by a group of friends who just wanted a platform to put out whatever shit they were making, but we'll see what happens. So, let's get into the tracks. I'm so torn on whether or not this is a good opener. I do think it's one of the better songs on here, but it has unquestionably the worst intro. You put this album on, and the first thing you hear is just 30 seconds of the driest, most static kick and clap. It's not even boots and cats at this point, it's just boot. Cat. Singular. Compare this to Next Big Thing by Throttle, which has another kick clap intro that I actually praised in my Monstercat 7 video. Now take a listen to this intro again. Are you kind of hearing what I'm talking about? There's nothing besides the bare minimum happening here to give it any kind of momentum or interest. So what does this song do well? More than you would expect with an intro like that. The melody in the first breakdown? Mwah! Italian hand! It has call and response, it has development, it has cutting and pitch bending to support the articulation of the music, whereas a lot of beginner producers might just fall into the trap of looping one bar. As a matter of fact, the drop sometimes even has multiple melodies going on at the same time. It has a B section. That's a lost art right there, is the EDM drop B section. This song shows that even then, Arion definitely had an intuitive sense of what works in songwriting, which does so much to help this song hold up, even if the production sounds pretty amateur. Well, the drums in this one sound better, at least. But that MIDI guitar sounds like it could have come from MuseScore or something. The pendulum rock influence that's kind of been all over drum and bass for over a decade now is definitely pretty strong in this, but having listened to Feint's sound evolve for a number of years at this point, I'd say his style is still pretty recognizable in this, with the euphoric synth melodies and big pads over the really chaotic drums. The mix on this one is definitely better than the first track, but the drop still sounds a little overcrowded to me. There's a lot happening at once, and I wish it would pick something to focus on, whether that's the wobbly respace or the synth lead, because as is, it's all thrown in your face to the point where it almost just becomes noise. I will say this though, besides the technical quality of the mix, I think this is one of the songs on the album that ages the best, because it is completely free of any kind of stylistic gimmick that might have dated it. There's no gaudy sounds, gimmicky samples, or cheesy lyrics. It 100% lives and dies by the instrumental melody. And that melody is pretty timeless and euphoric. Damn, this one's coming out swinging. That piano hook might be one of the better openings to any dubstep track I've ever heard, actually. Instantly recognizable melody, and the bright piano sound just cements it. For about the first minute of this, you could almost mistake it for like a pre-Skrillex, mid-2000s dubstep roller, but that illusion goes away as soon as the bass growls start fading in. The first drop of this makes a choice that is very unexpected, but I think is also very smart. It keeps the focus on that bright piano melody and not the bass growls. Those stay very filtered and just kind of roiling underneath it. And that piano melody is easily the most memorable part of the song, so doubling down on that is the best thing he could have done. Unfortunately, as the song goes on, it relies less and less on that and more on straight-up growling, which never gets any brighter, by the way. They stay in the exact same spot they were underneath the piano, so the second half of the song is just kind of missing high end. This is what I mean when I talk about mixes sounding unprofessional. Like, compare this song to Innocence by Nero, which is another dubstep song that was released this same year. Now go back to the Ephixa track. It sounds like somebody put a blanket over it. I feel like how good or bad a song is usually comes down to, what am I getting here that I can't get anywhere else? With this song, it's that piano hook. And once that goes away, the track unfortunately becomes a lot more forgettable in the face of all the other dubstep that's out there. This one's got a pretty iconic melody too. Even a little bit of counterpointy harmonization of the lead. How often do you hear that in dubstep? The drop is actually in 6/8 time instead of 4/4. Like, we got some interesting stuff happening here. Longest song on the album. It's 6 minutes, which frightens me because when I see a dubstep song that long, my first thought is not that this runtime is going to be earned. More likely, the artist just wasn't savvy enough to edit it down. But I think this track actually does pull it off. The drop is pretty extended, but it doesn't go too overboard with the sound design and leans more into the rhythmic syncopation of that 6/8 groove. Which gives it shades of that old school dubstep style, because after a while, you're not really headbanging as much as you are just settling in and vibing with the flow of it. I don't have anything bad to say about this one. I'm surprised, like, these songs kind of good, actually. Of course I say that, and the next song is this. In a way, it's kind of the opposite of Cold Blood and Ice Cream Cones, because this one actually opens with a pretty good synth melody, and it's all downhill from there. On an album of mixes that range from, well, it's not distracting, to this is ass, this is the ass one, the drums especially sound tiny. When they first come in, you think, oh, they sound thin because it's the intro. Surely there will be low end when the drop happens, and then there's still not. Also, remember what I said about Atlas being free of any gimmicky samples that might have caused it to age poorly? The Mario sounds are not doing this one any favors. So, if the Monstercat wiki is to be trusted, Halo Nova is actually Varian before she became Varian, but they also dead-named her, so maybe not. And you can hear some early elements of her style, like the metal drum fills and the Baroque synth melodies in the second half. But as far as I can remember, Varian's style really hit its stride with her later Monstercat releases. So this song is a perfect example of why I never want to do reaction review videos, because there are songs that have hooked me on first listen, but given diminishing returns when I put them on repeat. And there are also songs that don't impress me at first, but end up growing on me over time. This is one of those. The overall vibe that this one has is completely different from any of the other tracks. Not just because it's the only hardstyle song on here. The rest of them have like a very distinct bedroom gamer energy. Not really sure how else to describe it. Whereas this one feels like it comes from the club.
Music definitely is but that's the inspiration. That is the fuel. That is the engine. That is the broth of the soup.
Also, low-key, this is the best mixed song on the album. The kick has real punch and all the synths have room to breathe. There's some cool sound play in the darker sections of the song too, with the basses getting chopped up and panned around, trading off little bits of the melody. And the other thing I like about this one is that it's not super obnoxious like a lot of hardstyle tends to be. None of the drums or synths are overly bright, distorted, or grating. It's about as chilled out as this genre can get, which I think makes it more accessible. Is it revolutionary for hardstyle? No, but I could definitely see it being a really good entry point into the genre for anyone who stumbles upon it here. So I distinctly remembered this song being a big fat meme amongst my high school friends and I because of the sample, which just goes to show how easily high schoolers are entertained, I guess. The intro of this is really interesting to me because the sampled strings and the 808 hi-hats almost give it like an old school hip-hop flavor. It's basically trap, which I do not think was nearly as big in 2011 when this was released as it would be later in the decade, and I think it's cool to hear that influence here. And then the drop just comes out of nowhere. It's so abrupt that it's practically a jump scare. You think you're listening to a Team Supreme beat cipher, and then I feel the same about the bass growls in this song as I do about the Ephixa and Halo Nova ones. Sound design that hasn't aged super well and musically isn't contributing a whole lot besides sludge. The most interesting thing about this one is by far the trap influence because none of the other songs on here have that, but Stephen Walking released a lot of songs on this label, and his is another style that I think peaked later on. So, the big question, are any of these tracks actually worth recommending today? Yeah, I think so. Several of them. Cold Blood and Ice Cream Cones, if you can get past that intro, it's got the catchiest melodies on the compilation. Hello, the only dubstep song on here that feels both unique and well executed. And weirdly enough, Captivating, which is a surprisingly restrained and well-produced hardstyle banger. And for the compilation as a whole, you can already kind of hear the sound that Monstercat is starting to carve out in the EDM space. You have a real diversity of bass music styles represented between the different artists, all connected by pretty memorable melodies. And those melodies really do a lot to enhance the replay value of this thing, even today, because the production and mixing definitely are not. I don't want to kid anybody here. None of these songs hold a candle to some of the stuff that I know this label put out in the years following, but I am really glad that it still exists and it's still available to listen to, because everybody who makes music starts out sounding like this. So it's really inspiring because you can see the entire trajectory of growth that artists like Feint and Arion went through. I mean, Feint is now like headlining festivals, Arion is getting music placed in like films and video games left and right. But anyway, I hope to get into the Monstercat stuff that I can recommend a little more unconditionally in future videos. If I continue making these at the pace I am currently, I should have all 30 albums covered by the time I'm 52. So, let me know which one you want to see me talk about next. Now's your chance, because we might not get through them all. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. One of these days I'll no longer be asking, but we're not there yet. So until next time, my name's Brian, aka Digit, and if my past upload schedule's any indication, I will see you in 3 months.